Now, when I was doing my research for Dear Reader, my North Korea book, those books were, of course, many of them were from North Korea proper and had been translated from Korean into English. And one of the issues that I meant the background. And one of the things, I've met refugees from North Korea, some of the stories that I had heard alluded to weren't in the literature I had read. For example, and a lot of it was like playing telephone, like someone tells something else, and by the time you hear it, it sounds crazy. Here's an example. I went into the project thinking that Kim Jong-il was reported to have written 1,000 books by the time he graduated college, right? And then I read the literature. It said by the time he had graduated college, he had written 1,000 books, essays, articles, and letters. So their claim is he wrote a letter an average a day. This is not, it's not like, oh my God, they're saying something so crazy. It's like, it's so crazy that they're saying something. This is not remarkable in the slightest. And some of the more bizarre stories that I saw referred to in the literature from other countries were things like the great leader Kim Il-sung, can we get a picture of him, Kim Il-sung? The great leader who's the founder of North Korea. He's a very mythical figure there. You could still see him there. It was closed when I went. Having these magic powers, literally magic. For example, he made a raft out of leaves and he could turn wood into bullets. I wasn't seeing these stories, and I talked to one of my refugee friends, and she said, you're not seeing them because the really crazy stuff they know not to translate. There was some. A lot of it was from earlier times because as you know, technology advanced and more information got exchanged, they tried to kind of tone it down. There he is. But I remember very vividly, there's a book that came out in 2016 called Kim Jong-il, the Great Man, and I copied and pasted a lot of this into Dear Reader, and it talked about how when he went to Russia, Kim Jong-il, that is, the Dear Leader, the weather would change wherever he went. And as a result of this, the Russians call him the man who brings sunshine. So the Western claim that Kim Jong-il can change the weather, yeah, I had that source. And one of the things that they also discussed was how the great leader Kim Il-sung was able to beat what they referred to as the wicked Jap devils. The Japanese, North Korea had been, or Korea, excuse me, had been a Japanese colony prior to World War II. And by all accounts, the Japanese were not exactly nice people. These are the ones who sat down with Hitler and said, hey, we like what you're doing and we like how you're doing it. Let's be pals. So things have started. People always ask me, have things changed in North Korea? Here is one way that they have changed, and a lot of people have sent this across my desk. North Korea's state media have officially issued a report that Kim Il-sung had mythical powers. So in North Korea, Kim Jong-un, his father Kim Jong-il, and his grandfather, they have this godlike status, as many of you I'm sure know at this point. And there's lots of myths about their exploits that are taught to school children, and some distort history about his, where he was from, where Kim Jong-il was born, so on and so forth. However, since Kim Jong-un came to power in 2011, the supernatural ones have seen a bit of a decline. Now, some of these myths that probably have crossed your consciousness have been things like Kim Jong-un being able to drive at age 3. And that's the thing. It's stuff like that. Like, it makes more sense in one sense to claim that Kim Il-sung can make wood into bullets than to claim that Kim Jong-un could drive at age 3, because how are his feet going to reach the pedals? Like, if you're going to go magic, go all the way, because you can easily imagine, okay, here's wood, I make it into bullets somehow. But, like, if you're visualizing a kid at the wheel, it's just physically impossible. It's not a question of technical skill. The other one, of course, is the golf course one that most of you have heard about. Now, one myth is so widely believed that North Korea's official newspaper, the Rodok Sinmun, had to step in and say it's not true. Kim Il-sung did not have, I don't know how to pronounce this word, Chugjibap, I think is the pronunciation, which means fast-moving magic or teleportation. And you could see it in like some of those kung fu movies with the cloud of smoke and the guy teleports. Yeah. So they call it a method of shrinking the earth. Let me also tell this story, which is very similar to this, and it's in Dear Reader. They say in North Korea that Kim Jong-il can shrink time. Okay, what do they mean by this? I'm like, all right, that's nice. This is the story they tell. He's having a business conference conference rather. There's a speaker. He's working on laws. his assistants keep bothering him with questions. The speaker stops. The speaker's like, "Dear leader," Kim Jong-il's like, "Why are you stopping?" He's like, "Dear leader, like you're working on your papers. I don't want to interrupt you." He goes, "Oh, no. I could do all three things at once." And in the literature it says, and from then on, everyone in Korea said that Kim Jong-il looked at time as not a plane, but a cube, and that he could shrink time. And I told this to my friend, and she said, "Do they mean multitasking?" Yes. They literally meant that Kim Jong-il is the only person in North Korea capable of multitasking. So what's funny is I don't know which of these kinds of stories are crazier, the magic ones or the things that are so ordinary that are repositioned as not only extraordinary but unique that they bear repetition. They're both, very demented in their own way. So this Chungjibop power is the ability to move quickly at a speed so fast that the attacker seems to temporarily disappear. They also claim that Kim Jong-il could do this. In fact, there's supposed to be an American computer which tracks the leader's movements, but the computer couldn't follow him because he was moving so quickly. This I did read in the literature. So this is a concept in East Asian martial arts that have been attributed to figures in mythology and, of course, in anime, which is horrible. Now, according to myth, he was able to use this technique to win a battle against the Japanese imperialists when Korea had been a colony and when he was leading supposedly these Korean guerrillas in exile. The North Korean paper said, in fact, people can't disappear and reappear by folding space. This is the first time in history that state media has explicitly denied a myth about the Kim family. So while deification still occurs in North Korea, the ministry is saying in South Korea that Kim Jong-un is attempting to keep the myths grounded in reality. These propagandas have been pushing more believable tales because they understand if they're perpetuated in an unscientific and irrational manner, fewer people will believe the entirety. So this is something that's very interesting, and this shows what my hope is for North Korea, that as more and more information seeps in, it's harder and harder to maintain this edifice of lies, and this is them reacting to, wait a minute, and the thing is, once you start questioning one thing, you start questioning a lot. There's a story that Kim Il-sung as a child walked from Pyongyang, the capital, to Manchuria, which is in northeast China, and then walked back fighting beasts along the way. And then you think about it, he's like 11 and he's walking for like weeks. It's like, what are you talking about? But even that is not as absurd as his ability to teleport. And that has been Hipster History.